and southern Kentucky. This is WYMT Mountain News Weekend Edition.
Good evening, I'm Amelia Lee. Kentucky football had their first true road test of the season, and it was a major success. Audrey Hausberger is in studio for more on the Wildcats' win against number 6 Ole Miss.
Yeah, you said it, Amelia. Kentucky's 20-17 win over number 6 Ole Miss earlier today was a historical win for the program. Some could say the win was 46 years in the making, being this was the Wildcats' first victory in Oxford since 1978. The win also marked the highest AP-ranked triumph of the Mark Stoops era, which previously was a victory at number 9 Louisville last season. Today's win was also UK's first conference win this season. So lots to celebrate there. Myself and Jack Demler will have highlights, Mark Stoops' post-game comments, and much, much more later in Sports Overtime, so be sure to tune in for that. Amelia?
Thank you, Audrey. Now let's take a first look at weather today as we're continuing to track the impacts of Helene here in the Commonwealth. The former Category 4 hurricane made its way from the Gulf to Kentucky in about a 13-hour period. Helene was weakening from a tropical storm to a tropical depression as it crossed into Kentucky. So let's check in with meteorologist Drake Foley. Drake, what's the latest?
Yeah, Amelia, so Helene impacted our area through yesterday, and now it's moved its center off to parts of western Kentucky. We have had a few light showers throughout the day, and taking a look at pinpoint Doppler radar like we have right here, it's actually pretty clear outside and not too bad at all when it comes to that. And we had a few showers pass through the area, but as far as for the rest of the night, we look to stay pretty quiet. We barely got into the 70s today, cracked it at 73 in Jackson and Hazard, but we did crack the 80s out there in Pikeville and Prestonsburg. But right now, staying pretty clear throughout the entirety of eastern Kentucky. 64 in Somerset, 65 in Monticello, and 66 in Prestonsburg and Pikeville. Everybody's sitting pretty cool and nice at this time of night. Coming up in your first alert forecast, we're going to talk about how those rain chances continue, how September ends Monday, and we're going to look at the start of October and how your spooky season could look. Amelia?
Drake, thank you. And we'll continue to cover some of these damages we've been seeing in our viewing area, starting with Harlan Judge Executive Dan Mosley. He issued a state of emergency declaration in Harlan County earlier today from the wind event caused by Hurricane Helene. WYMT's RJ Johnson shares how the storms impacted folks in Harlan County.
People in Harlan County are cleaning up after the mess Helene left on their communities.
Made for a busy day. We were anticipating a lot of weather, having a lot of wind, so we were expecting trees, expecting some flooding.
With calls coming from several areas in the county, Sunshine Volunteer Fire Department Chief Stephen Hatfield says they made several trips to the Kaywood area.
The first run we made had a tree that fell on a structure, trapping the individual in their home.
With fallen trees, down power lines, and more, Hatfield says crews are working around the clock to clean things up.
The county road department, some of our guys are out making sure the roads are clear this morning. We stayed out till 11 last night making sure that everything was passable, just double checking for power lines down and stuff. I'm sure the electric companies are just overwhelmed. It's going to take them a while to get everything put back together and get everybody's power back on.
However, he says while they are dealing with their own damage, he knows people in other states have been heavily impacted by the remnants of Helene.
We were spared what our neighboring states, our neighboring states were hit a whole lot harder than us, but really prayers go out to everyone. I know in our county, we've had a lot of people with a lot of damage, and just hope everybody stays safe and can get everything put back together.
In Harlan County, RJ Johnson, WYMT Mountain News.
Hatfield says officials are still helping folks remove trees, limbs, and more from their yards and roads. Power lines were snapped, leaving thousands without power. Utility companies are working to clean up damaged lines, and you are advised to be aware and stay safe. The storms knocked out power for thousands of people in the viewing area that included Harlan County as well as Perry County. We will continue to keep an eye on those outages and keep you updated as crews work to restore power. You can go to this story on our website, WYMT.com, for a full list of outages. Kentucky Utilities says they have more than 500 technicians out working on those outages. They also have roughly 400 additional resources coming in from out of state today to help. Spokesperson Daniel Lowry says the storms impacted about 200,000 KU customers overall. They're now down to almost 70% restored. Lowry says the goal is to have everyone's lights back on by 11 on Tuesday night, if not sooner.
Our crews take their time to be safe, so they're restoring power as quickly as possible, but as safely as possible too.
Typically with a storm like Helene, KU would send crews to help restore power in other states. However, Lowry says they have kept all of their crews in the Commonwealth. Once power is restored here, they'll look at potentially sending them to help elsewhere. In Tennessee, one of the areas hit the hardest is Newport in Wolfe County. Evan Lasik was in downtown Newport today, talking with people trying to recover after these devastating floods.
The town of Newport recovering today after severe flooding hit the downtown area. People I spoke with saying they were glad they were able to get out when they could and that it could have been so much worse.
Folks here got really worried that we might lose our whole home, so we're glad that it's not that bad, even though it's really bad.
Many longtime residents say they've never had flooding like this happen to their town.
I've worked at these funeral homes, this one in particular, over 50 years, and I've never seen the water cross the railroad like it did yesterday.
Some calling it a once in 100 years kind of storm.
If you didn't live through it, you didn't understand it. You know, it just came so fast. That's what startled me was, just how it came so quickly. You see it on TV, but you don't see it firsthand. But yesterday we saw it firsthand, unfortunately.
Wolfe County EMA says heavy rainfall paired with storms from Helene made this situation as bad as it was. He says the safety of every person is their top priority.
Right now we're in the rescue phase. We will be in the rescue phase for quite some time. The men standing behind me, they refuse to quit, they refuse to give up, and we will keep sending emergency responders out as long as everyone is not accounted for.
County officials say there have not been any deaths during these rescues. Wolfe County Mayor Rob Mathis says they will get through this together.
The resilience of our community, the resilience of our people. We've been knocked down before, we've rose up before, and we're going to rise up from this stronger than we've ever been. There's a saying, mountain strong, and that's exactly what we are. We are a hardy people, and we will rise up from this.
In Newport, Evan Lasik, WVLT News.
Wolfe County officials say hundreds have gone through the shelters since the flooding began. Leaders in Powell County say Helene has caused more damage and outages than they have ever seen, especially for one family in the area. What's left of Billy and Sierra Hale's lives is being bagged up and loaded onto a U-Haul after their trailer in Powell County was damaged by Friday's storms. The Hales say although they are grateful no one was hurt, their trailer is completely unlivable now.
It's heartbreaking. I never thought that, growing up you think you're going to live in a wonderful place and it just can all be taken away from you in a blink of an eye. And it really truly shows you what you have to be grateful for.
Powell County Judge Executive Eddie Barnes says these storms left more than 90% of Powell Countyans without power and knocked more than 100 trees down, something he says the county has never experienced before. Barnes says he asks everyone to remain patient as crews work to get power restored and trees out of the way. With the potential for power lines to be down, it is important to remember to let the experts handle things. If you see a power line on the ground, the first thing you should do is call 911. Remember to stay far away from the line and anything it is touching. They can still be live even if they don't look like it. Don't attempt to use any tools to try and move them. Even items made out of wood or cloth can conduct electricity. If they are in the road, you are advised not to drive over them. Kentucky Power says down lines can cause serious or even fatal injuries. A man was arrested in Wolfe County on Friday night after driving a Penske moving truck into a Main Street building. The driver, 50-year-old David Dugas of Virginia Beach, is facing multiple charges following the incident. His charges include driving under the influence, possession of meth and drug paraphernalia, and wanton endangerment. Officials with the Sheriff's Department say a woman and small child were also in the truck.
Come and see all the good times that await you throughout Kentucky. Hike miles of trails surrounded by striking scenery.